Don, without any further ado, we're all here. I'm looking forward to your lecture today on electrical acupuncture.
Thank you, Dr. Brown, for having me. And I've been teaching electroacupuncture for about 12 years now, ever since I've been teaching. And I find that a lot of people are interested and very curious about electroacupuncture, but they really don't know how to use it. And so in this particular short seminar that we have, we're going to cover how to use acupuncture safely and effectively, because the modality is very, very effective and safe, and as long as you know how to use it. So we're going to get into understanding the technology as well as some of the physiology behind using electroacupuncture. So the goals are today to use electroacupuncture safely and effectively, to understand, and how do we do that? We do that by understanding the technology as well as the physiology, and then how to apply the technology to the body to basically get effective treatment outcomes. All right, so we're going to start moving along. So let me get the slides moving along here. And if someone could, I'm having difficulty forwarding the slide on my video. There we go. So let's start with a brief history. Electricity has been used for quite a while. If you actually trace back the use of electricity in medicine, it can go back to Egypt about 2,000 to 3,000 years ago. Electric fish were used. They were put into a bucket, and I think people were stuck their limbs in there, and they gave them a nice little shock. I don't know how effective this particular therapy was, but that's when it started. Now, there are all kinds of people that can be credited throughout the 2,000 to 3,000 years till now. So I'm just giving you a little bit of a highlight. Italian physician Luigi Galvani basically was doing an experiment, and he found that dead frog legs twitched. And so that started his explorations into electroacupuncture. Guillaume Duchesne expanded upon Galvani's work as it particularly relates to alternating current versus direct current in muscular contractions. And then we take a big jump to China, and Tong Shen's book, Investigation of Electroacupuncture, was published in China in 1934. So around there, about 1934 is when electroacupuncture started in China. All right, if you can move to the next slide. Let's see if I can do that. And for some reason, I am having difficulty on mine, but if someone could move it for me, that would be great. Because that is not particularly working. There we go. Can you hear me? All right. Let's begin with understanding electrical terminology, because we need to understand what frequency is, what milliamp versus microamp means. So when you're playing around with frequency, also known as cycles per second, also known as hertz, and the endogenous opioids, or endorphins, enkephalins, and dynorphins, these are body's natural pain-relieving chemicals, are responsive to very specific frequencies, and we'll get into that a little bit. So that's a choice that you'll need to make when you are applying electroacupuncture, is deciding which frequency to set it at. Another choice you need to make is, do we want to use milliamp or microamp? Okay, and we'll get into that a little bit as we move along. Okay, milliamp is basically the machines that most of us use. Milliamp can create muscular contraction. So for those of you who have seen or have used an e-stim machine where you put the needle into the muscle and you turn it on and the muscle starts to twitch, okay, that's a milliamp machine. Now, milliamp means 1,000th of 1 amp. What's coming out of, at least in America, I don't know about in Canada, in America, what's coming out of your normal electrical outlets are probably about 10 to 15 amperes. So when you're using milliamp, it's 1,000th of 1 amp. So it's a lot less energy, but still it's quite a significant amount of energy to use in the body. But the majority of machines that are used now are using milliamp, and milliamp can produce muscular contraction. If you're using microamp, microamp is 1/1,000,000th of 1 amp, and that is not strong enough to create a muscular contraction. So that's an important distinction to make between milliamp and microamp, is that milliamp is stronger and it also can be felt, and that can create muscular contraction, and then microamp is considered subsensational. Some people can feel it, but it does not create muscular contraction because it's not strong enough. Now let's move on. This is just a little bit of, I guess, science you want to call it. And it's important to understand this issue of what we call a biphasic pulse. And I'm going to move it forward a little bit. We can look at the diagram. So a biphasic pulse, as we look at it, there's a positive here and there's a negative. So when you're looking at your clips, and I'm going to move it forward a little bit. When you're looking at your clips, I'm going to bring that picture up. There we go. When you're looking at these clips here, right, there's obviously a red or a positive and a black that is negative. Okay, when you are using a biphasic machine, which are majority of the machines out there that you use, each of the leads right here gets both a positive and a negative pulse. This gets positive and negative. This also gets positive and negative. And why is this important? Because when you're looking at